Happy Monday. Welcome to a new week, and welcome to week 3 in our podcast series entitled Intentional. This week, as I mentioned to you yesterday, we're going to talk about how we can choose to choose whenever we feel stuck. And yesterday I mentioned that whenever we feel stuck, we need to fly the plane using the instruments, right? That's what Ignatius of Loyola teaches us in the spiritual exercises. That flying the plane with vertigo was an image that I shared with you yesterday. And today what I'd like to do is begin to unpack for you some of the aspects of the spiritual exercises from St. Ignatius of Loyola that are very helpful whenever you and I feel stuck. And for that we go to a section of the text of the spiritual exercises which he entitles Rules for the Discernment of Spirits. And there are aspects of the rules that are really only applicable for a person who's on a 30-day retreat, but there are other aspects that are really applicable for you and I in our ordinary lives. And so let's dive into the first 2 rules today. Ignatius there is going to describe for us that based on the trajectory of one's spiritual life, we can predict what God's going to do and what temptation is going to do. And we can therefore predict what God's going to do and what the enemy is going to do whenever you and I feel stuck. In the first rule, he says that if a person is moving away from God, if the general direction of their life is that they're moving, as he would say, from mortal sin to mortal sin, they're moving away from God, well, we can expect that temptation is going to want to lure that person deeper into that pattern. Temptation wants that pattern to continue, and so temptation is going to do whatever is possible to keep that person hooked in moving away from God. On the other hand, God in that person's life is going to do whatever he can to stop the movement. God might sting their conscience. God might send other people into their life who confront them. And some of those confrontations might be awkward or uncomfortable. Whatever it is, generally speaking, when we're moving away from God, we can expect the enemy to lure us into temptation further and further, and we can expect God to stop that pattern. The same is true if you flip the trajectory and you flipped the source of the movement. If a person is moving closer to God, even if they feel dry in their spiritual life, if they're moving closer to God, if the general theme of their life is that they do want God and they're moving closer to God, we can expect God to do whatever he can to draw that person closer to him. God is now the one who wants the pattern to continue, and the enemy, temptation, is the one who wants that pattern to stop. So we can expect God to console us, encourage us, lead us, so that we continue to grow closer to him. And we can expect the enemy to be very active, to try to place obstacles in our life, to agitate us in a variety of ways, to whisper to us various temptations. It's the enemy in this trajectory of one's life that wants the pattern to stop. So we should expect that the closer we get to God, the more that we are tempted, or the more that we see temptation trying to place obstacles in our spiritual growth. And if you look at your own life, perhaps you can recognize that pattern. Just ask yourself, where are you now? Is the general trajectory of your life moving away from God, or is it moving toward God? I would imagine that if you're listening to a podcast series on a Monday morning, you're probably moving closer to God, or at least you're open for that. So you should expect that there are going to be times in your life when you're going to get frustrated in your spiritual life. You should expect that you're going to experience temptation, or there are going to be obstacles along the way. It's not because God's doing that. It's because somebody doesn't want us to grow closer to God. It's just an expected part of the spiritual life. And so your homework today is just to ask yourself, what's the movement of your life? And if you have in the past or are experiencing now various spiritual agitations, irritations, obstacles, discouragements, maybe now to rethink them, like, maybe you're experiencing those not because they are accidental or because it's your fault. Maybe it's because temptation is trying to tempt you to stop the momentum that you have in your spiritual life. Let me give you an outline of where we're going this week. Monday and Tuesday, we're going to talk about what you do and what you do not want to do whenever you're stuck. There are some things that you want to do, but there are also some things that you don't want to do. When we hit Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to talk about how we are to think. Actually, the way that we think whenever we're stuck has a major influence over our interior disposition. And then when we hit Friday and Saturday, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 things that we really want to know about where we are in life and what we need to be doing. So that's the outline of the week. Really looking forward to being with you this week. And until our conversation unfolds tomorrow, God bless you.